Ethan Carter was the kind of guy who fixed things. Not just the buggy code at his software engineering job in Seattle, but the little problems in people's lives. Last weekend, he spent 3 hours troubleshooting his neighbor's Wi-Fi, grinning when their kids cheered as Netflix flickered back on. That was Ethan, reliable, quick with a joke, the friend you called at 2 a.m. when your car broke down. At 34, he had built a life with Mia, his high school sweetheart, that felt like a warm, unshakable constant. They were the couple who hosted backyard BBQs, their laughter mingling with the sizzle of burgers, or who showed up early to volunteer at the local animal shelter, coaxing shy dogs into wagging their tails. To everyone, they were solid, enviable, real. But on a rainy Thursday evening, that solidity cracked. Ethan was sprawled on the couch, scrolling through a tech forum on his phone when the doorbell buzzed. He glanced at the clock, 7:42 p.m., and frowned. Mia was at a late work meeting, and they weren't expecting anyone. He opened the door to find Nate, his best friend since their UW college days, standing under the awning, hands shoved deep in his jacket pockets. Nate's usual easy smirk was gone, replaced by a tightness in his jaw that Ethan hadn't seen since Nate's dad passed 2 years ago. "Dude, you good?" Ethan stepped aside, letting Nate in. The air felt heavy, like the rain outside had seeped into the room. Nate didn't sit. He paced, boots leaving faint wet marks on the hardwood. "I need to tell you something, man. It's about Mia." His voice caught, and he ran a hand through his damp hair, avoiding Ethan's eyes. Ethan's stomach twisted, but he kept his tone light. "What? She forget to pay the bar tab again?" He forced a chuckle, leaning against the kitchen counter, but Nate's silence sucked the humor out of the air. "I saw her last night," Nate said finally, stopping mid-step. "At the Comet, that bar on Capitol Hill. She wasn't alone, Ethan. She was with some guy. He hesitated, then pushed on, each word deliberate. They were close, like holding hands, leaning in, whispering. It wasn't just drinks with a coworker. Ethan's mind blanked for a second, like a browser crashing. He stared at Nate, waiting for the punchline, for his friend to crack a grin and say he was messing with him. But Nate's eyes were steady, filled with a mix of guilt and resolve. "I didn't want to believe it either," Nate continued, softer now. "I watched them for a bit, thinking maybe I got it wrong. But I know what I saw. I am sorry, Mum." The room felt smaller, the hum of the fridge suddenly too loud. Ethan crossed his arms, gripping his elbows to steady himself. "You sure it was her?" His voice was calm, but inside his thoughts raced. Mia? His Mia, who texted him dumb memes during meetings, who curled up against him on movie nights. The idea of her with someone else was absurd. "Impossible. I'm sure," Nate said, wincing. "I wouldn't come here if I wasn't. I took a picture, just to be certain." He pulled out his phone, hesitated, then held it out. Ethan's hand moved on autopilot, taking the device. The screen showed a blurry shot of a crowded bar, but there she was, Mia, her dark hair unmistakable, laughing with a man Ethan didn't recognize. Their shoulders touched, her hand resting on his arm. The timestamp read 10:17 p.m. When she texted Ethan, she was stuck at the office. Ethan handed the phone back, his fingers numb. "Thanks for telling me," he said, his voice flat. Nate lingered, offering to stay, to grab a beer, but Ethan shook his head. "I'm good. Just need to think." When the door closed behind Nate, Ethan sank onto the couch, the weight of the moment pressing against his chest. He replayed every interaction with Mia over the past month. Had she been distant? Secretive? Last week, she'd stayed late at work 3 times, blaming a big project. She'd been extra affectionate, though, kissing him longer in the mornings, surprising him with his favorite takeout. Was that guilt? Or was he reading too much into it, letting Nate's words twist his trust? He grabbed his laptop and opened their shared calendar. Mia's work meeting was marked until 9 p.m. tonight. He glanced at the clock, 8:15. On impulse, he opened a browser and searched for a GPS tracker. His fingers hovered over the keys, shame creeping in. Tracking her car felt like a betrayal of everything they'd built. But so did the image of her hand on that stranger's arm. He clicked by on a discreet, real-time tracker, selecting overnight delivery, and paid with a credit card Mia wouldn't see. When Mia got home at 9:27, Ethan was back on the couch, pretending to read a tech article. "Hey, babe," she said, kicking off her shoes and dropping her bag by the door. Meeting was brutal, but we're almost done with the pitch. She leaned down, kissing his cheek, her perfume familiar and disorienting all at once. "Sounds rough," Ethan said, forcing a smile. "You eat yet?" "Nah, grab coffee at the office." "I am wiped." She headed to the bedroom, calling out, showering, then crashing. Ethan watched her go, his heart pounding. He didn't confront her, didn't ask about the bar, the man, the lie. Instead, he sat in the dark, listening to the water run, and made a decision. He wouldn't let doubt consume him without proof. Tomorrow, the tracker would arrive, and he'd see for himself where Mia was going and who she was going with. For the first time in years, Ethan felt like he was standing on the edge of a cliff, unsure if the ground beneath him would hold. Ethan barely slept, his mind replaying Nate's words and the blurry photo of Mia with another man. By 6 a.m., he was up, sipping coffee that tasted like ash, staring at the front door as Mia left for work. "Have a good one," she called, her voice bright, oblivious to the storm brewing in Ethan's chest. He nodded, managing a half-smile, but his fingers tightened around his mug. The GPS tracker was set to arrive by noon, and every minute until then felt like a countdown to clarity or collapse. The delivery came at 11:47 a.m., a small, unmarked package slipped into the mailbox. Ethan tore it open, revealing a sleek black device the size of a matchbox, its app already downloaded on his phone. He read the instructions twice, committing the setup to memory, then tucked the tracker into his pocket. Mia wouldn't be home until 6 p.m., giving him a window to act. He drove to her office parking lot, a gray sprawl near downtown Seattle, and found her blue sedan tucked between two SUVs. Heart pounding, he crouched by the driver's side, pretending to tie his shoe as he scanned for cameras. The lot was quiet, just the hum of distant traffic. He popped the hood, citing a dead battery if anyone asked, and wedged the tracker into a crevice near the fuse box, where it blended with the wiring. He tested the app. Her car blinked as a red dot on a map, steady and precise. Ethan exhaled, a mix of relief and dread. He was crossing a line, but so had Mia, if Nate was right. Back home, he watched it sit still at her office, his mind wrestling with guilt. Was he the paranoid one now, or was he just protecting himself? For 2 days, the tracker showed nothing unusual. Mia's car moved from home to work, then to the gym, then back. Ethan checked the app obsessively, each ping a jolt to his nerves. He kept up the act at home, laughing at Mia's stories, cooking tacos together, even kissing her goodnight while his stomach churned. But on the third evening, everything shifted. Mia walked in at 6:30 p.m., phone in hand, already typing. "Hey, I'm meeting Lauren and the girls tonight," she said, barely looking up. "Just drinks at the Rhino Room, nothing crazy." Ethan's pulse spiked. The Rhino Room was on Capitol Hill, same as Nate's story. "Cool," he said, leaning casually against the counter. "Which girls?" "Oh, Lauren, maybe Jess," Mia said, her tone airy but her thumb tapping faster on her phone. "Gotta unwind after this week." She disappeared to change, leaving Ethan staring at the tracker app. The red dot was still at her office, but soon it'd move. He waited, giving her a head start, then grabbed his keys. By 7:15 p.m., the tracker showed Mia's car heading toward Capitol Hill. Ethan followed, taking side streets to stay discreet, his cap pulled low. The app led him to a packed street near the Rhino Room, where he parked a block away. The bar's neon sign buzzed, laughter spilling onto the sidewalk. Ethan stayed in his car, watching the trackers dot stationary right outside the bar. He scanned the crowd, his chest tight, until he saw her. Mia stepped out alone, her phone glowing as she typed. Ethan's hope flickered. Maybe she was just meeting friends. Then a man approached, tall, broad-shouldered, moving with easy confidence. Mia smiled, tucking her phone away, and they walked together toward a dark SUV parked in an alley. Ethan's breath caught. He gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white, as they climbed into the back seat. The SUV didn't move, but the windows began to fog. Ethan's vision blurred, not from tears, but from a rage he didn't know he could feel. He wanted to storm over, yank the door open, but he forced himself to wait. Proof. He needed proof. He pulled out his phone, hands shaking, and recorded a short video, enough to catch their silhouettes, the SUV's subtle rocking. The man's face was unclear, but Mia's profile was unmistakable. Ethan stopped recording, his chest heaving. He could confront her now, but something held him back. He needed to know why. Was this a one-time slip, or something deeper? And who was this guy? Back home, Mia returned at 10:42 p.m., humming as she kicked off her shoes. "Fun night?" Ethan asked, his voice steady despite the fire in his veins. "Yeah, just girl talk," Mia said, smiling as she headed to the shower. Ethan opened his laptop, syncing the tracker's history. The data confirmed she'd gone straight to the Rhino room, no detours. But then he checked her phone's cloud backup, a shared account he rarely touched. A text thread with Lauren, her best friend, caught his eye. "Meet him tonight," Lauren had written yesterday. "You deserve to feel alive." Mia's reply, "I'm nervous, but okay." Ethan's blood ran cold. Lauren, the one who'd thrown their engagement party, who'd cried at their wedding, was pushing Mia toward this. He kept scrolling, finding older messages where Lauren planted doubts. "Ethan's so caught up in work, you sure he's still in it?" The betrayal wasn't just Mia's. It was orchestrated. Ethan closed the laptop, his mind racing. He wouldn't confront Mia yet. He'd confront Lauren first. And he'd do it where she couldn't lie her way out. That Ethan's hands trembled as he stared at the text messages on his laptop. Lauren's words to Mia, glowing like a confession. "You deserve to feel alive." The betrayal cut deeper than Mia's actions in the SUV. It was calculated, a wedge driven by someone he'd trusted as family. By 7 a.m., with Mia still asleep, Ethan was already planning. Confronting Mia now would be messy, emotional, and incomplete. He needed to unravel Lauren's role first, to expose the full scope of this deception. His phone pinged. The GPS tracker showed Mia's car still parked at home, but that wasn't enough. He needed answers, and he needed them airtight. He called Nate, voice low to avoid waking Mia. "Can you meet me? I found something about Lauren." Nate agreed, no questions asked, and they set a time at a quiet diner near Fremont. Ethan spent the morning digging deeper into Mia's cloud backup, screenshotting every incriminating text. Lauren's messages were relentless, nudging Mia toward doubt. "Ethan's always working. When's the last time he really saw you?" Another. "Derek's back in town, but he'd remind you what passion feels like." Derek. The name hit like a punch. Ethan vaguely recalled him. A charming co-worker from Mia's old marketing job. Always too friendly at company parties. At the diner, Nate slid into the booth, his face grim. "What's up?" Ethan slid his phone across the table, showing the screenshots. Nate's eyes widened as he scrolled. "Lauren set this up?" "Man, she was at your wedding, crying harder than your mom." Ethan nodded, jaw tight. "She's been playing us both. I need to know why." Nate leaned back, processing. "What's your plan? You can't just let this slide." Ethan's plan was simple but precise. Confront Lauren at a mutual friend's game night tomorrow, where she couldn't dodge him in front of their tight-knit group. But first, he needed more on Derek. He spent the afternoon cross-referencing Mia's texts with her calendar. A coffee meeting with Derek 2 weeks ago lined up with Lauren's encouragement. Ethan's stomach churned, but he stayed focused. He tracked Derek's name through social media, finding a profile confirming he'd moved back to Seattle last month. A photo showed him at the Rhino room, tagged with Mia's co-worker Jess. The web was tightening. That night, Mia acted normal, chatting about a new client over dinner. Ethan played along, nodding, even joking about her picky eating habits. But his eyes caught her phone lighting up. Another text from Lauren. "How was last night?" Mia glanced at it, then flipped the phone face down, her smile faltering for a split second. Ethan's heart raced, but he kept his cool, excusing himself to check emails. In the bathroom, he checked the tracker app. Mia's car hadn't moved since she got home. No late-night meetups tonight, but the texts were enough to keep him on edge. The next evening, Ethan arrived at their friend Sam's apartment for game night, a bi-weekly ritual where their group played board games and swapped stories. Lauren was there, laughing over a card game, oblivious to Ethan's arrival. Mia had begged off, citing a headache, which suited Ethan fine. He wanted Lauren alone. He waited, joining the game, his calm exterior masking the storm inside. Halfway through, he steered the conversation to trust, dropping casual comments about loyalty. Lauren shifted uncomfortably, her laugh forced. As the group broke for snacks, Ethan cornered her by the kitchen counter. "We need to talk," he said, voice low but firm. Lauren's eyes darted, but she followed him to a quiet corner. "What's this about?" she asked, crossing her arms. Ethan held up his phone, showing the screenshot of her text to Mia about Derek. "Why are you pushing my wife into an affair?" His tone was steady. But the accusation landed like a grenade. Lauren froze, her confident facade cracking. I was just trying to help her. She said she was unhappy. Ethan stepped closer, keeping his voice low so others wouldn't hear. Unhappy? Or did you make her think that? You told her I didn't care, fed her lies about Derek. What's your angle, Lauren? Her silence was deafening. Then, in a whisper, she admitted, I thought, if she messed up, you'd see me instead. The confession hit Ethan like a shockwave. Lauren, his friend for years, had orchestrated this out of jealousy. Before he could respond, Sam approached, sensing tension. Everything okay? Ethan seized the moment, raising his voice just enough. Lauren's been manipulating Mia, pushing her toward some guy to break us up. The room went quiet, all eyes on Lauren. She stammered, face flushed, but the group's stares, disappointed, betrayed, silenced her. Jess, Mia's co-worker, spoke up. I saw Mia with Derek at the Rhino Room. Lauren told me it was just a catch-up. Was that a lie, too? Lauren's silence confirmed it. Ethan left the apartment, his pulse pounding, but his resolve stronger. Lauren's betrayal was exposed, but Mia's role was still unresolved. He drove to a nearby park, needing air, and checked the tracker. Mia's car was at the Rhino Room again. Fury and clarity collided. He wouldn't storm in. Instead, he'd wait, gather more evidence, and confront Mia with the truth she couldn't deny. The game night fallout would spread, and Lauren's lies would unravel further. Ethan wasn't just fighting for answers now. He was fighting for his own truth. Ethan sat in his car, the Seattle night pressing in, the tracker app glowing with Mia's car parked at the Rhino Room. The sting of Lauren's confession at game night, her calculated push to sabotage his marriage, still pulsed in his veins, but seeing Mia at the same bar again shifted his focus. Lauren's exposure had fractured their social circle, with friends texting Ethan in shock, but Mia's actions now demanded his attention. He didn't race to confront her. Instead, he drove home, his mind sharp, planning the final piece of his response. He spent the night transferring screenshots of Lauren's manipulations and his video from the SUV incident to a secure drive. He wasn't sure how he'd use them yet, but every detail mattered. By morning, Mia was already gone, her side of the bed untouched. A text from her read, early meeting back late. Ethan checked the tracker. Her car hadn't moved from the Rhino Room's lot. She hadn't come home. His jaw tightened, but he channeled the betrayal into action. He called Nate, filling him in on Lauren's confession and Mia's latest move. She's still lying? Nate said, voice heavy. What's your next step? Ethan paused, then said, I'm done waiting. I'm confronting her tonight, but I'm doing it clean. No yelling, just the truth. Ethan spent the day tying up loose ends. He emailed their shared landlord, preparing to break their lease if needed, and moved his personal files off their joint cloud. He wasn't running. He was reclaiming control. By afternoon, texts from friends confirmed Lauren was unraveling. Jess had cut ties with her, and Sam banned her from future game nights. Lauren's attempt to spin the story, claiming she was protecting Mia, fell apart when Jess shared a screenshot of Lauren admitting she'd lied about Ethan's neglect. The group chat buzzed with disbelief, but Ethan stayed silent, focused on Mia. At 6 p.m., the tracker showed Mia's car leaving the Rhino Room, heading toward their apartment. Ethan waited, his phone ready with the video and screenshots. When Mia walked in at 6:47, her keys jangling, she froze at the sight of him on the couch, his expression unreadable. Hey, she said, her voice too bright. Long day, I'm beat. She moved toward the kitchen, but Ethan stood, blocking her path. We need to talk, he said, calm but firm. Mia's eyes flickered with unease. About what? Ethan held up his phone, playing the video from the SUV. Her face drained of color as the blurry footage showed her with Derek, their silhouettes unmistakable. I saw you, Ethan said, at the Rhino Room, with him, and I know Lauren pushed you into it. Mia's hands shook as she sank onto the couch. Ethan, she started, but he cut her off, pulling up the screenshots of Lauren's texts. She fed you lies about me, about us, but you chose to act on them. What? His voice stayed steady, but the question carried years of trust now shattered. Mia's eyes welled up, but she didn't look away. I felt invisible, she whispered. Work was brutal, you were always coding, and Lauren kept saying you didn't care. Derek was just there. She choked on the words, shaking her head. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Ethan's chest tightened, but he didn't soften. You lie to my face, Mia. Every night. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. She reached for his hand, but he stepped back. I'm sorry, she said, voice breaking. I'll end it with Derek. I'll cut off Lauren. We can fix this. Ethan shook his head, his decision made. I don't hate you, but I can't trust you. I'm done. He handed her a printed lease notice. I'm moving out. You've got 2 weeks to figure out your half. Mia stared at the paper, tears falling, but said nothing as Ethan grabbed his pre-packed bag and left. He drove to Nate's place, crashing on his couch, the weight of the confrontation settling in. Sleep didn't come, but clarity did. Mia's betrayal hurt, but Lauren's manipulation was the real poison. The next day, Ethan met Jess at a coffee shop to dig deeper. Jess confirmed Derek was a fling Lauren had hyped up, knowing he'd charm Mia. Lauren was obsessed with you, Jess said, grimacing. She thought breaking you two up would give her a shot. Ethan nodded, unsurprised but sickened. Over the next week, Mia moved out, leaving a note. I'm staying with my sister. I'm so sorry. Ethan didn't reply. He changed the locks, canceled their shared accounts, and started hiking again, the trails around Mount Rainier clearing his head. Friends rallied around him, sharing stories of Lauren's lies unraveling further. She'd lost her job after colleagues learned of her deceit. Mia, meanwhile, cut contact with Derek and Lauren, her social media going dark. Ethan wasn't vengeful, but he needed closure. He posted a vague update in their group chat, thanking friends for their support and confirming he and Mia were over. The replies poured in. Encouragement, offers to hang out. But one message stood out. Mia, from a new number, asking to meet. No excuses, she wrote. Just to talk. Ethan stared at the text, torn. He wasn't ready to forgive, but he needed to understand her side. Not for her, but for himself. He typed back, one meeting. Neutral ground. Tomorrow. Ethan stood outside a small cafe near Pike Place Market, the Seattle air crisp with the promise of fall. The tracker app was deleted from his phone. His apartment lease was in his name alone, and Mia's belongings were gone. Yet her text from yesterday, one meeting, neutral ground, lingered in his mind. He didn't owe her this, but he needed to close the chapter, not for reconciliation, but for his own peace. At 3:58 p.m., he walked in, spotting Mia at a corner table, her hands fidgeting with a coffee cup. She looked up, eyes wary but steady, and nodded as he sat. I'm not here to beg, Mia started, voice low but clear. I just need to say this in person. I broke us. I let Lauren's lies get in my head, and I chose Derek instead of talking to you. I am sorry, Ethan. Not just for what I did, but for who I became. Her words were raw, no deflection, but Ethan kept his guard up, remembering the SUV's fogged windows, her casual lies over dinner. He leaned forward, elbows on the table. Why didn't you tell me you felt ignored? We could have worked on it. His tone wasn't accusatory, just searching. Mia exhaled, her fingers tightening around the cup. I was scared. Work was crushing me, and Lauren kept saying you were checked out. I believed her because it was easier than facing you. Derek was a distraction, a stupid, selfish one. She paused, meeting his eyes. I ended it with him the night you confronted me. I cut off Lauren too. Ethan nodded, unsurprised. He'd heard through Jess that Mia had ghosted their old circle, moving to her sister's place in Tacoma. Lauren, meanwhile, had become a pariah, jobless, unfriended, her manipulations exposed beyond their group when a former colleague leaked her deceitful texts. But Ethan's focus was here now. I trusted you completely, he said, voice steady. That's what hurts most. Not just the affair, but the lies. You made me doubt everything. Mia's eyes glistened, but she didn't cry. I know. I see it now. How much I threw away. You were the best part of my life, and I didn't deserve you. She slid a folded paper across the table. It's the divorce paperwork. I signed it. No fight, no demands. I just want you to be free. Ethan glanced at the paper, but didn't touch it. He'd expected this, yet the finality stung. Before he could respond, the cafe door swung open. Lauren stepped in, her posture tense, eyes locking onto them. Ethan's stomach dropped, but he stayed seated, sensing a collision he hadn't planned. Mia stiffened, her face hardening. Lauren approached, voice shaky but defiant. I need to say something. To both of you. Ethan raised a hand, cutting her off. You've done enough, Lauren. Leave. She didn't budge, her words tumbling out. I was in love with you, Ethan. For years. I thought if Mia screwed up, you'd finally see me. I pushed her toward Derek, lied about you, everything. It was wrong, and I'm paying for it. Her voice cracked, but Ethan's expression didn't soften. Mia stood, her chair scraping the floor. You used me, she said, voice low with fury. You broke my marriage, my trust, for what? A fantasy. Lauren flinched, glancing at the other patrons now watching. I'm sorry, she whispered, but Mia shook her head. Sorry doesn't fix this. You're not my friend. You never were. Lauren's shoulders sagged, and she backed away, leaving the cafe without another word. The door clicked shut, and the silence between Ethan and Mia was thick, charged with the weight of Lauren's confession. Ethan exhaled, turning back to Mia. That changes nothing between us, he said. You still made your choices. Mia nodded, her jaw tight. I know. I just needed you to hear me, to know I'm trying to be better. Not for you, but for me. She stood, leaving the divorce papers on the table. Take care, Ethan. She walked out, her steps slow but resolute. Ethan sat for a moment, the papers untouched. Lauren's admission had closed a loop, exposing the full ugliness of the betrayal, but it didn't erase Mia's actions. He pocketed the documents and left, the city's hum grounding him. Over the next weeks, he threw himself into new routines, hiking Rainier's trails, coding a side project, even starting a blog about rebuilding after betrayal. Friends rallied, inviting him to trivia nights, but he kept Lauren and Mia's drama private, sharing only what helped him heal. One evening, Nate handed him a beer at a brewery, grinning. You're looking lighter, man. What's the secret? Ethan shrugged, smiling faintly. I chose myself. Let the rest burn out. He'd signed the divorce papers, mailed them to Mia's lawyer, and felt the weight lift. Mia had moved to Portland, starting therapy, according to Jess. Lauren faded into irrelevance, her name barely mentioned in their circle. Ethan's blog gained traction, readers sharing their own stories of trust and recovery. He didn't write for fame, but for clarity, each post a step toward peace. Standing on a trail overlook one dawn, the city sprawling below, he realized he wasn't just surviving. He was free. The betrayal had scarred him, but it hadn't broken him. He'd walked away whole, stronger, ready for whatever came next.